recently got dumped. Crazy, right? Well, he just kind of disappeared. Still quite unbelievable, really, but it was quite hurtful what happened. And it's difficult for me to make sense of, truly. However, as I was sitting in my painful emotions, a thought came to me. And that thought was how similar this felt to when someone passes away who you're close to. And that might sound a bit dramatic, but the reason why I say that is because when someone passes away, or when someone who you were in a relationship with suddenly vanishes, it's similar because in both instances, you cannot talk to that person anymore. You cannot express your feelings to them. You can't try and work things out, and all you want is to be able to see that person again. Even with the relationship example, even if you know deep down that's not a good idea, but you're just so attached to them emotionally that you just desperately want their presence. Yet, that's not an option. And all you can do really is just be in pain by what happened. And with a sense of helplessness. So then, if we cannot be with this person, then how do we overcome these terrible feelings? How do we move on? Well, the first thing I'd like to say is that it is important for us to actually experience these emotions. Because if we do, we can process them properly and release them so that they don't create an energetic block within us. And it's tricky because most of us suppress our emotions. I know I do that. And this can look two ways. Firstly, when something bad happens, someone might not react or react a lot less than seems normal. That obviously then looks like suppression, but suppression could also look like experiencing the emotions in a prolonged manner. So they're upset about the situation. They seem to be upset about it like for too long of a time. And even though that seems like the opposite of suppression, really, it's not, because if they properly and fully express themselves at the start, then they wouldn't still be struggling now with it still coming to the surface little by little, but it's not fully coming out. So let's get this emotional experience out of our system. And so most likely we've already suppressed ourselves. So then we need to stimulate that emotion again, bring it to the surface so that we can release it to the outside. And that could mean revisiting in your mind what happened, maybe listening to a sad song or something to encourage that to happen, or tell somebody about what happened to you. And that also can be an effective way to stir up the emotions and get them out. When we voice something, it really is quite powerful. And when that's happening, because it can feel so unpleasant to feel these emotions, we might have a tendency to want to push them down again, but absolutely we must not do that. We've put in all this effort to try and bring them up, so we need to focus on that and then cry, shout, do whatever you need to do to express yourself and get those emotions out of your system. Then that's when we need to start the healing process after this point. And that could mean looking at forgiveness. And I know that's difficult, but it really is a powerful tool to be able to move on. And again, because we cannot actually talk to this person, the way we're gonna handle our painful feelings is that we're going to want to distract ourselves. And in a way, I would encourage distraction because it's really the only way to move on. However, we must be careful and selective with what kind of distraction we choose to engage in. And for this reason, I actually don't like the word distract, because especially if it was that you're in a bad relationship previously, that was the true distraction. Now you're actually regaining focus in your life. So that means considering our purpose, but also considering how our life most likely right now is imbalanced. So when we lose somebody, there's a sudden void in our lives, like in the relationship part of our lives. So now we need to turn to other areas of our lives in order to gain the support and upliftment that we need to get through this time. And so those other areas include friends, family, work, our hobbies. But oftentimes these other areas of our lives are underdeveloped or even neglected. And so when we find ourselves in a time where we really need to turn to these parts of our lives, there's nothing really there for us because we haven't put our energy and time and attention towards them previously. And that's a difficult situation to be in, but that's often how it is. So this really emphasizes the importance of giving attention to those other areas of your life, so that when you're in a time of need, that they're right there for you to go towards. So if that's not the case, then, well, the time starts now to start focusing on those other areas of our lives so that they are better established. And in fact, I experienced that myself from not what happened right now, but with my previous relationship of over 3 years. Most of my energy had been put towards that relationship, and then when that was over, I realized that other aspects of my life had not received the attention that they deserved. And so since the end of that relationship, I actually feel quite fulfilled in my life because I've put attention towards my friends. I've gained new friends, I've deepened friendships, my family, a better relationship with them, and my work. Yes, I have so much more fulfillment in those areas which was absent before. So I actually feel more whole, even though I don't have the relationship, the love relationship part of my life still. So you can see that this is how we approach these situations and deal with them in our lives. When we lose somebody, we gotta shift our attention to the other areas of our lives and find purpose, because with purpose, we're really invincible. When challenges come to us and hardships, we can navigate them so much more effortlessly when we have purpose. And that's why I'm passionate about purpose, and I talk about it a lot, because that is just, it's so important to have meaning and to have balance in our lives also. So those are the thoughts I have today. And again, if something bad happens to you and you're upset about it, see how you can use that to actually do something good with it. And I guess it's kind of what I decided to do here today, to share this story with you, because I know I'm not the only one that's experienced this. I know it's likely relatable, and so it's a reminder to myself that I'm not alone, and a reminder to you also that you're also not alone. So I think it's cool to be able to share these experiences with each other and make a difference that way, help others that way. Anyways, that's it for now. So, see you later.